Well, Pam, which way you going? Left or right?
Right.
That's too bad.
Why?
Well, because it was a 50-50 shot on whether you'd be going left or right. You see, we're both going left. You could have just as easily been going left, too, and if that was the case, it would have been a while before you started getting scared. But since you're going the other way, I'm afraid you're gonna have to start getting scared immediately.
Hello and welcome to Movies and Tea. I'm your host, always Will Jones, and joining me, of course, is our very own Hot Rod Girl, Kim.
Hello.
Tonight we are going to be talking about Death Proof, the fifth film from Quentin Tarantino. This is kind of a unique one, as it originally started off as part of a double feature as Grindhouse with Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror, and then the Weinsteins, being the assholes that they were, thought, oh no, nobody's getting this idea of the double feature, so we'll just split the films into two separate features, and fuck you Brits, because you're not going to see the double feature version. So alas, here we are with Death Proof as the full version, which is the version we are going to be discussing tonight. And I have to say, this is one of my favorites of the Tarantino filmography. I think Kim is going to disagree greatly with me tonight, so this is going to be interesting.
I don't think I disagree. I'm just very there are elements that I like about it, and then there are elements that I don't really have a lot of thoughts about, which is going to make it really fun still, because I'm going to be, I don't know what to say to things, so we'll see how it goes.
Providing the counter-argument tonight.
I don't even have a counter-argument, that's the problem.
Okay.
I don't even think that, I watched this, and I went through it, and I was like, oh, well, it was entertaining, but something seemed like it didn't completely work for me, and I can't exactly pinpoint what. The goal of tonight is that while we talk about this, maybe I'll figure it out.
Fair enough. Well, the concept behind Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof is he wanted to make a horror movie, in particular a slasher, where the killer, instead of using a knife, uses a car. And hence Death Proof was born, in which the killer, a stuntman known as Stuntman Mike, here played by Kurt Russell, contrives a number of elaborate death scenes for his intended victims as he preys on young women. First of all in Austin, Texas, and second in Lebanon, Tennessee, using his death-proof car as the means of murder, I guess, is the way to say. But this one's interesting in the fact it pulls a bit of a swerve on us, as we're initially introduced to three friends, Arlene, Shanna, and the radio DJ Jungle Julia, who are basically on their way to a hangout in the town of Austin, Texas. And over the course of the night, they encounter Stuntman Mike, and while he seems like a harmless type, later turns out to be a psychopath as he kills them in a head-on collision. 14 months later, we're introduced to three more young women, with Abernathy, the stunt woman Kim, and actress Lee, who team up with their best friend and fellow stuntwoman Zoe, here played by Zoe Bell, playing, I guess, herself, who find themselves again targeted by Stuntman Mike, while the trio of them are out test driving a 1970s Dodge Challenger, aka the car from Vanishing Point. I really like this. I mean, this is obviously not only Tarantino doing a horror film, but it's also Tarantino paying homage to the great car smash movies of the past, and as he likes to say, he was throwing his hat in the ring, as he didn't want to just go out and make a contribution to the genre. He wanted to go out and make a memorable one, if not one of the best contributions, and in doing so shunned the idea of doing anything involving CGI car crashes, which had been pretty much at this point regular norm. We have things like Fast and Furious, and Mad Max Fury Road was still a bit of a way off, so the last sort of good car smash sort of movies we had was Wolf Creek and the motorway scene in Final Destination 2, and Tarantino was kind of in many ways wanting to revive that whole scene and just like shoot a really ridiculous car sequence, which essentially he does here. He makes a film based around a really prolonged car sequence, which if you're a fan of car smash movies, it's really great, and if you're not, I think this is going to be a little tedious.
Well, I think the car stuff is not that bad. Like, I kind of enjoy seeing all these, like, the idea itself is really good. I think the whole, once you start realizing that the character of Stuntman Mike is really a psychopath, I think that's when the movie kind of takes a turn. And then you kind of have that feeling of, not sure about when things are going to go down and stuff, right? And the whole, build up to it.
The role of Stuntman Mike originally had been offered to John Travolta, William Dafoe, John Malkovich. Mickey Rourke was a real front runner for the longest time, but unfortunately his people sort of held out on Tarantino and thought that they could sort of wrangle more money. So he ended up being passed on to Kurt Russell, and one of the big inspirations for having Kurt Russell play the role is the fact that Kurt Russell was sort of settled into more sort of family fare at this point, and Tarantino's like, well, when's he going to get back to playing like the, working man badass that he'd been like in the 80s as like Snake Plissken and Escape from New York, and playing like Tango and Cash, Big Trouble in Little China, and this was really a chance for him just to get back into those roles. But when you look at some of these like castings, I mean, like Bruce Willis was offered, Sylvester Stallone, Ron Perlman, who I think I would like to see Ron Perlman play this. I think that would have been kind of cool.
Oh, Ron Perlman would have been interesting. Like, he would bring a different style, I think, but it would still work. Much like someone else that you just listed off that I thought would have been pretty good also.
Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone?
Not Sylvester Stallone. Bruce Willis might be okay.
Mickey Rourke?
Yeah, Mickey Rourke would be fine. And there was someone before him that you mentioned.
John Malkovich.
No, William Dafoe.
Oh, William Dafoe be just... we know what he can do unhinged really well, so...
Oh, man. William Dafoe is, like, the king of being unhinged. Like, he does all kinds of stuff. I still remember last year when I watched this movie in Festival du Nouveau Cinema, and it was, like, this new cinema movie that it was so weird. And it wasn't really like he had an unhinged character, but I think that it was just such a weird role. And then when there was one part where I just thought it was wild. But yeah.
Yeah, when I think of him like in this role, my mind just like goes to like Wild at Heart or Streets of Fire, just those sort of like levels of greasy unhingedness. I think this is the thing, when you look at each of these people, I think they all would have played it very differently than the way you have with Kurt Russell. The way Kurt Russell plays it is sort of like, oh yeah, I can see Kurt Russell, aging stuntman who's now taking his stunt car out and going and off and committing these horrific murders. And I love the fact his brother's called Stuntman Bob, who sadly is not seen in this movie, which just would have been really great to see who would have played Stuntman Bob. But one of the big inspirations for Tarantino came from a conversation he was having with Sean Penn, and basically Tarantino wanted to buy a Volvo because he didn't want to die in some auto accident like the one we see in Pulp Fiction. And in regards to like car safety, Sean Penn said, well, you could take any car and give it to a stunt team, and like for $10,000 to $15,000 they can death proof it for you. And it was the term death proof that sort of stuck with Tarantino, and it's why we have the film we have. But this film being such a carryover from its original Grindhouse cut, there's so many sort of elements that are still in place, and we obviously get to see it greatly expanded upon. I think it was like a 40-minute cut that we saw in Grindhouse to like this 140-minute cut we have here.
Yeah.
And there's so many of those charming little features are still there. They're mainly in the first half of the film. When we have the opening and it says like Quentin Tarantino's Thunderbolt, and it like quickly cuts away and have the black title card that says Death Proof, because a lot of the Grindhouse movies, if they didn't perform well under one title, they just release them under a different title. For example, we were talking before we came on about William Lustig's Vigilante, and that was released originally in '82 as Street Gang. So you often get these films often released under many different titles. I mean, there's a number of like kung fu movies like Five Fingers of Death was released under a different title as well, and certainly a lot of the Baby Cartman Powell movies as well. So it's kind of fun that he throws in that little homage, and you can see, like, when we look at that first half, just how beat up the film is. It sticks in places and randomly cuts to sequences, and when we get into the second half, we have a really random black and white shot, which I can only assume is like a reference to Tokyo Drifter again that we saw in like Kill Bill, and then it like sort of snaps out into this very nice film stock, and I have no idea why he chose to change the film stock for the second half. I mean, it's only been like 14 months. It's not been 14 years. So yeah, it's a little jarring, because I was like watching that first time. I was like, God, this film stock's really shitty. And I was like, was it always this shitty? Because I remember, like, it'd been a while since I watched it, and I've got a slightly bigger TV now, so maybe it was like the benefit of the doubt of watching my small portable TV that everything seemed a little better. But
the lack of definition in the past is what made old movies look really good, and then when you put them into like, when you change them to Blu-ray or you update them to like the modern TV, it all looks like crap.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, the fuzz of VHS like does a lot of old movies. It gives them a bit of grace, and then DVD slightly takes away some of that fuzziness, and then you see Blu-ray and you like see all like the wires and stuff that nobody's bothered to remove, and it's like, yeah, this isn't as good. So you kind of wish that when you buy Blu-ray that you could like change the filters to like crappy 7th gen VHS version or something, just to like give the film some nice fuzz. Sort of like why people buy things on vinyl.
Yeah, do that instead of the giving you the option of full screen or widescreen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just for, nostalgic purposes, it could be good. So you don't hate on a movie so much because you're looking at this and you're like, I never realized this looks so bad,
Yeah, it'd be like, quick, switch over to Elwood's TV mode, and it'd just be like burnt out in like one corner and stuff, and like, so yeah.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, I think that the visual styling of how that's done actually makes the movie pretty good. I mean, I kind of didn't really notice the back being normal film stock. It was just when you mentioned it now that I remembered. Because I think that's what the first part really stood out, was that it had those cuts, and it was really, really obvious in the beginning. Like the first part when you meet Stuntman Mike with these 3 girls, and the whole like conversation between them and whatnot, and it kind of like it skips forward, and then you have the whole thing going on, and it really adds to that style. I think that's what I really liked about the first part, but I thought the first part was so dragging on because I just couldn't engage into the conversations they were having.
Oh, really?
I thought it was so boring. Whereas, like, maybe the second half, the benefit is that the second group of girls is all kind of familiar faces. So, like, people that I've seen nowadays, and they're in their younger roles, and it was, and I really did like their acting more, and, like, the whole bit they had together, and how all of them interacted. I found it was more engaging than the first part. But then obviously, like, it's a different group, so it has different dynamic between them, because obviously the outcome between the first group and the second group is drastically different, right? So I think that's also where you can see why the different groups have their different dynamics and their different characters.
There is very much a different dynamic between the two. I mean, obviously the first one is sort of like you more girls heading out to the lake house, so more sort of your traditional sort of slasher fodder, and then we get into our second group who are more like the tomboyish group, who are going to basically, they're like the group of foxy chicks, so it's like your Fox Force 5 group. Just to talk about that first group, though, I mean, we got Vanessa Folletto, who, if you watch CSI New York, she was in that. We've got Sidney Poitier's daughter, or Sir Sidney Poitier's daughter, as Jungle Julia. And we also have Marcy Harrell as Marcy, who's the chick with the really cool fro that we see. Mm-hmm. Sadly, she's only in the like first Dynasty when she doesn't make it to the bar, and it was like, oh god, why did someone talk about how cute Marcy Harrell was in this movie? So that was a disappointment to myself. And yeah, I can understand with the first half, it's more of a slasher movie, the first half.
Yeah.
Just like how it's played out, how the cars sort of like tease and stuff when you see like the headlights in the car park and like what Stuntman Mike's deal is. And yes, we get to see Eli Roth attempting to act. Sadly, not for the first time in a Tarantino feature. We also get to see Tarantino casting himself as the bartender Warren. I've nothing against Tarantino's acting ability. I know there's people out there who think he overacts everything, but I kind of liked him as Warren.
But I think Tarantino fits in his roles because he knows what he wants from that role, right? That's the perk of acting in a movie that you wrote and you're directing, is that you know exactly how you want to portray this, and if you hate it, you can refilm it, right? So it's not exactly like I think that he delivered exactly how he wanted this bartender to be. I have nothing against Tarantino acting. I think that him being in his movies as little cameos is kind of really fun, because now you watch these films and you kind of like expect him to be there. So you kind of like try and spot where he's going to pop out for however long it is.
We also get to see Michael Bacall as Eli Roth's buddy there. He's mainly better known as a screenwriter who did the screenplay for like Project X, Scott Pilgrim vs. World, Maniac, as in the Elijah Wood one, not the William Lustig one. So yeah, it's kind of fun when you start deep diving into like who all these people are in this, and there's some interesting moments in there, such as like when you see Junga Julia's on her phone and she's texting this like mystery person, and I love the fact that the soundtrack like cuts out and it goes to that sort of like love theme, which is I think it's like the opening title music to Blowout. That they use there, but it's just how it's sort of like he breaks the soundtrack and you have that sort of that theme, and then as soon as she looks for her phone, it's like back into the jukebox music. So there's lots of those little fun bits I like there, and the actual jukebox in there is Tarantino's own jukebox. He wrote all those cards himself, so that's why they got that chicken scratch scroll all over him. But yeah, it's all his records. It's all his, including his use of We're Down in Mexico, which I actually had at my wedding.
Okay.
Just because I liked it in this film, and I put it on a mixtape for my now wife, and she really liked it, and I didn't tell her what scene it was in this movie for sure.
And then I think what was really fun was that, one of the soundtracks, that was an opening or something, is the soundtrack of this show. Was it this show? It is a show, no?
Oh, yeah, Funky Fanfare, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the New Beverly, the revival house Tarantino owns, he like opens all his features with Funky Fanfare, because it's the old feature of presentation music they used to show before features.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Shaw Brothers trumpet, but yeah. I think we're not the only movie podcast out there who uses it.
Yeah,
to be
probably,
honest.
of course. But I've never seen the movie, so to me it was kind of a fun little Easter egg.
Nice.
But I mean, at the same time, talking about the movie itself, because I watched this on Netflix, right? So I opened it up, and then we had a whole discussion with the husband and I about, because he's seen it before, and we own a DVD of it, which seem to not work anymore, so I don't know what's going on with that, but so I can't prove what he's saying, but because when you open the movie, there's these like ads that pop out, and these like super cheesy ads on top of that, like super weird shit, and then it was just like he was saying this, he was like, man, the DVD had better ads, and I was like, would they really change the ads for this version and the DVD version? You sure you remember right, type of thing? But that's what I'm asking, because you've seen this before, obviously, and I'm sure that's meant for as part of the movie for like the whole experience, right?
Oh, if you're talking with the little cartoon panther who turns into the strictures. Yeah. That's part of the feature.
Yeah.
It's because when we look at Grindhouse, the original production, it had like fake trailers in between and fake commercials and stuff, and it added up to this double feature experience. So that's where Machete came from. because that's what it opens with. It opened with a trailer for Machete, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, Machete's really cool." And Rodriguez, being Rodriguez, was like, "Fine, we'll go off and make it." You know,
because the one on Netflix doesn't have Machete, but
no, it's in front of Planet Terror.
Yeah,
and then when Planet Terror ends, you had Edgar Wright's Don't, which was
Don't, that one, yes.
And then you had Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, which is
yes,
which is just a slasher set at Thanksgiving, which he keeps saying he's going to make, but I don't believe it. Now he's gone on mainstream.
Yeah. So pretty much like it's the same thing. It's just probably my husband remembered what was before Planet Terror and not like after it, probably.
Yeah, and some of the end credits where you've got the flashes of like the China girls, the little headshot bits.
Right.
Some of those were different because you had a shot from Thriller, or they call her One Eye, of her with the shotgun and the eye patch, and that's why everyone suddenly went out and hunted down Thriller. Right. Nobody cared about until Grindhouse came out, and everyone was sort of like, I want to see the movie with a chick with a shotgun and the eye patch. That's the movie I want to go and see. That's what Tarantino does. I mean, he gives us references and hints of these forgotten exploitation movies, and then obviously they get re-releases, and it helps revive a lot of movies that otherwise would be forgotten. So, but so, I mean, just with the soundtrack though. I mean, what did you think of the soundtrack? Because I think it's one of the best. It's up there with like Pulp Fiction for myself.
I think so. I mean, but I like all of the soundtrack so far.
Okay.
I've been like, I think one of the things that's gotten me through a lot of Tarantino movies is the soundtrack. It's definitely not the runtime. I mean, we had off air, we were talking about this whole, Tarantino's love for long runtimes and when it all started. And my argument was I started from the beginning, right after Reservoir Dogs. But you believe that's at the end, so we haven't gotten to the end yet, so we'll see. But no, I like this one a lot. I think that it was really weird sometimes because it would kind of like, I think because the movie was trying to go for like, you would have these random cuts in between. Like there were really like abrupt changes in the soundtrack, or at least it would feel that way. And it was kind of fun, I think, when the soundtracks would have those changes. I think the soundtrack, I think any Tarantino movie so far, the soundtrack is probably my favorite part. So I have no complaints of it here.
This is a good one for the car, definitely. When you have like tracks like It's So Easy and like The Last Race, and Chick Habit by April March, which plays at the end. It's just all good stuff. We even get a sample of Wu Zhao Xiao Bai Fan, or Dragon Claws, at the end, which I love that the ending we have like this very traditional kung fu movie thing where the killer blow is like the last shot of the movie and it like comes up with the end. So the fact he used this part of the score from Dragon Claws was just like, oh, that's just perfect right there. Although I'm sure my pronunciation that was just probably had Kim going, no, that's not how it is at all.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Well, check me out then. But yeah, I mean the big payoff obviously of our first group is that we get to see that head-on crash not once but 4 times, because we've got to know how each of our victims die, and that leg flying with the air just gets me every time.
But it's so like, it's the one thing that is going to happen because of the, because it's just, because of, there's so much focus on the leg and the feet hanging out of the car.
The feet.
During this whole conversation.
Oh, yeah, that opening credits where it's just the girl's feet on there. And it's sort of like, why did it take us so long to realize Tarantino had a foot fetish? And it's just like the whole opening credits, it's just that. You're just sat watching some girl's feet. It's like, okay. But yeah, the feet thing I think really came to the forefront with this one, and everyone was like, oh, I get what you're doing. Because before it'd always been pretty subtle.
I don't know if it was subtle. I mean, it might not have been an opening scene, but
it hadn't been so blatant.
Subtle is a little bit like, yeah, maybe I'd argue Pulp Fiction is a little subtle. But I mean, when you get to like movies, I don't know, like even like when you get to Jackie, was it Jackie Brown? No, I don't know. I'm having a hard time now figuring out this. Maybe
got,
I don't know. I don't know if it's subtle. I see, at least I seem to always notice it. But then I don't know, it's because, we did look at the trademarks before we started, so that's why maybe it stood out a little bit more.
Yeah, the only director whose feet are a trademark. I don't know, I suppose if we did Russ Meyer season, it'd be like bosomy, like Amazonian women would be his trademark. The ultra vixens that he gave the world. That big car crash, I think it's still pretty spectacular, no matter how many times I see it. Especially the old tire to the face. I think that's right up there with like the log from Final Destination 2 of like really bad ways to go in a car.
I have yet to see Final Destination series, so
I have to say it's not going to fare well for yourself because especially if you like live anywhere near where they have like high logging activity. I'll just say that much.
Well, I don't live anywhere near high logging.
I don't know. I just assume Canada's like
there's some
all,
form
like,
of logging, but we're not like on the West Coast, and that's where the logging happens. I believe, at least.
Yeah.
So we're not. We're all about hydropower. That's what it is here. Hydroelectricity. That's our forte. No, the car crash was really well done, and even like when you go through like all the how everyone dies and stuff, I think that was like when I really started getting into the movie, was when you see that whole setup to the car going and then him getting into, getting ready to do the head-on collision with them and whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's when the movie really kicks it off, because the whole time it's kind of like the whole conversation is like he's trying to be, he's really laying it thick that he's a dangerous person. And these girls are just kind of like, whatever, taking it like he's just an aging dude who wants attention type of thing, right? And I just thought it was like, that's how you get killed. You gotta believe it. When people look dangerous, they possibly are. When people are faking it. That's the problem with movies nowadays, is when I watch it, you're messing with someone who's dangerous, and then you still go for it.
Yeah. He didn't get that facial skull working in admin, that's for sure.
Stuffing his face with nachos.
I have to say, Tarantino throwing his hat into the food porn ring with the nachos, they did look pretty damn good. The Nacho Grande platter, I was like, oh. Whether it's up there with like Eat, Drink, Man, Woman and that opening credit is to be debated, but no. The nacho platter did look pretty damn good. Obviously they meet their demise, and we have the scene of the sheriff there, who, let's not forget, is the same sheriff from Kill Bill and Dusk Till Dawn and Planet Terror. So that's a fun tie to keep everything in Tarantino's little movie world that he likes to live in. And I'm trying to remember who it is that bloody is now.
Michael Parks?
Yes, it's obviously Michael Parks playing the sheriff, this time seen with his son, who we saw in Kill Bill 1 actually as well, so it's kind of nice that they kept that going as well. So from here we're obviously introduced to our second group of girls, who are, as we said, are our more tomboyish group, and it's fun as well when you look at the diner scene. You can actually see Stuntman Mike in the background as well. So it's kind of like when you see Vincent going to the bathroom at the start of Pulp Fiction, and then you realise that when the film comes back around that he was there all along. It's not like a different day. That was something I only noticed this time, so I don't know how many. I've seen this film a few times, and for some reason I just completely missed it every other time, but something just caught my attention and just noticed him in the background there. But it's, again, these are another fun group to hang out with. How did you find the dialogue here? Because I know Tarantino was very complimented for the dialogue for his female characters here as being pretty realistic, but obviously I don't know how it read to yourself.
I don't know how realistic it is, but I mean, it was really because I don't talk like them.
No.
And my group of friends didn't talk like them. I thought it was pretty natural. Like, that's why I said, like, in the beginning, where I like the second half a little bit more, because I thought it was a little bit more believable, although there was a whole lot of F-bombs, and that got a bit annoying. But, I mean, that's just me. I don't usually use that much, and I avoid it, so it's a little shocking when you watch something that's, like, really, really, like, potty mouth group of ladies there.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, I thought it was pretty realistic. I thought it was pretty fun, like the things that they talked about. And because all of them were, they're kind of in that kind of same world type of thing. Like they all have, they're all, I think, part of some kind of behind the scenes type of thing, right? So it's interesting to see them all sit together and talk about the different dynamic that they have with each other.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you like look at obviously our first group, and though we're just basically talking about boys and making out and being badass bitches, and we meet our second group, and we've got like Kim and Zoe, who are sort of like the gearhead tomboy sort of chicks, and then their counterparts are sort of like, oh yeah, when you were watching like John Hughes, like Pretty in Pink and stuff, we were like watching like Vanishing Point and Daddy, like Crazy Mary and all these like car smash movies. And that's why they're so excited about the idea that they get to drive like a replica of Kowalski's car from Vanishing Point. I don't know if you've ever seen Vanishing Point, but
I haven't. No.
Oh, it's so good. It's basically he has to drive a car across country, and is just leads into this like manic sort of like car chase across country. It's really, really good. So if you got excited seeing the Dodge Charger in that, definitely go and check out Vanishing Point because it's awesome. Also, the car that they're originally driving up has the moniker of Little Pussy Wagon, because it's the same colour scheme as the Pussy Wagon from Kill Bill.
Right.
Zoe Bell, this is her first real sort of acting role. She was originally the stunt double for Uma Thurman in Kill Bill 1 and 2. Basically, it came to like doing this film, Tarantino really wanted to do a film like with her and to have her basically playing herself, and she sort of insisted on doing all her own stunts in the film because, you know, that's her trade. And I think when you look at this film, and especially how it's shot and the fact she's actually doing it, you realise that she has got fucking balls of steel.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's the most scariest part of this movie is when you look at some of the stunt work that is happening in this film, and especially because when the way the film is also being shot, you're like, you are part of the chase. You're not like the bystander watching cars whiz past. You are part of this chase scene. So you're seeing like these cars like going full pelt down the road, and she's hanging on the bonnet, and it's like, God, there's got to be easier ways to earn your money.
But I would say probably for a stunt woman, probably this is like a walk in the park. You know?
I don't know.
It might be an easy day for her, you know, compared to the shit that she has to do usually, probably.
I mean, you're starting off, you're playing ship's mast, which is where you're hanging on the front of the car with just like belts as the only sort of like thing to stop you sliding off. You're then engaging in a high-speed chase where cars are colliding into each other, where again you're basically looking like you're going to get thrown off the bonnet at any given moment. It's just such a thrilling chase sequence, and the fact that we have that original sort of part to it, and then we have like where they basically set out to humiliate the killer, because normally it's sort of like, you know, you survive the killer and that's sort of like the film would end, but now it's sort of like, no, they're going to go after the killer and they're going to humiliate Stuntman Mike, which is just so interesting. It's great when you see that dynamic shift. So that the pursuee becomes the pursuer. Kind of, it's always fun when you switch the roles like that. Kind of like on Buffy, where it's like, rather than the monster chasing the pretty girl, it's the pretty girl chases the monster. And here it's sort of like, rather than damsels in distress, it's like the killer who's in distress. Because he's now got these three angry ladies chasing after him in this like battle of the Dodgers. So. But yeah, this film's great for the car porn. It's just, if you like American muscle cars, just like going
Yeah.
top speed down desert roads, and then it just ups the ante by going onto main roads, and you've got other cars involved. It just constantly manages to up the ante, and just like, I can't watch things like Fast and Furious now where it's just like CGI, and it's sort of like just these huge leaps of implausibility, and I just like, it's like I heard these people like just rave on about these movies. It's like, I just do not get the appeal. And
Well, I get the appeal, so it's okay.
I know you like it, but I mean, there's only so many times you can hear someone say
No, but
about
I mean,
family.
I don't have an issue with appreciating, say, a movie like this, where I think, the car scenes or whatever, this one does great. And that's why I really like the second half, because once you get after that first part, the second part jumps into that car action really, really fast. And that's fine. But, when you talk about other movies, I know Fast and Furious gets shit on a lot, because as it keeps going, it really uses, now it's just all CGI. So, in the beginning, I don't think it was CGI. Like, the first few movies, it wasn't. But then, I think once you started the fourth or fifth one, it was pretty much, it started getting into CGI territory. And then it went into kind of like, just testing your boundaries on how far, you're willing to believe this whole scenario of whatever absurd scene. And I think that, it's a different class of movies, right? You can't put Tarantino next to Fast and Furious and compare the two. It's just unfair, because it's not the same category of movies. Fast and Furious, you go in, I'm not going to go and dissect a Fast and the Furious movie. What is there to dissect? There's nothing. It's a mindless entertainment movie with it's very little depth, and I'm going to admit that, but I still enjoy movies like that. But Tarantino is has that kind of depth to it, because while I thought the movie here was kind of like, as I call it, n'importe quoi, which is like whatever, then it's kind of like, I don't really see a ton of depth with it. But then, it's because I don't have that knowledge. Once I was doing more research on it, I realized, the movie was paying homage to muscle cars, and it was paying homage to slasher films type of style, and all those little things, right? So there's so much more thought that goes into this movie. While I still think it's I think I like it because I can accept it, because it's a shorter film than this normal like Tarantino thing. But at the same time, I think that there's still like, I always have movies in the beginning, the pacing is always my biggest issue. But that's just me. It's just a me problem, I think.
I did, for some reason I always have a lot of fun with this one, and I think it's, as I said, because it is actual cars happening, and it's I think you get so used to, you get kind of numb when you watch like CGI car chases after a while, and you see, that's why Mad Max did like so well when Fury Road came out, and it's all like actually being done, which is really no surprise, because when it comes to like car smash movies, the Australians are like well above everyone else. Even like you look at like their coming of age like dramas and stuff, they've all got like car chases and stuff. They just really love cramming car chases, and even when you like look at things such as like Frog Dreaming, which again is like another like kids on bikes movie, there's a really good car chase in it for like no apparent reason. So the fact that it's clearly where he's drawing his homage, drawing his inspiration for in this film, and I think it really sort of shows when you get some of these moments, and it feels like you're watching like the Mad Max movies and stuff. And I think because it'd been so long since I've seen like a proper car smash movie that had this come out, it just felt like, oh my god, this is what we've been missing. And then when you see like, and when we talk about the Fast movies, I agree. It's like, I think it's about Fast 6 where things start getting stupid. Where we've like got the tank scene, and apparently gravity no longer applies to anyone.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. At a certain point, it gets truly, truly ridiculous. But I think that once you've invested your time into all this, you might as well tough it out to like the 10th movie type of thing. I think they were greenlit for 10 movies, right? Like when they were at 7, they got greenlit for 3 more. So that was the reason why, even after all of this, I guess they needed to prove that even without Even after, that, even though Paul Walker had, died, he was still...
real comforting way of putting it.
Supposed to be a little more sensitive. But yeah, so even though Paul Walker passed away, unfortunately, they could still make the movie, right? From that. And obviously, it goes on ridiculous paths. But I think at this point, it's kind of like an Expendables type of deal where you just have a lot of cameos of people and big stars. Everybody seems to want to show up for a little bit. And I think, it's definitely... the substance is not there too much. But... It's a fun ride overall. I think that, the concept of it, and you kind of, as a fan of the franchise, I always just want to see how far they're going to go, how much further they're going to go, and how ridiculous can the scenes get, right? And I mean, never ask how far anyone can go. You realize that when you looked at when I looked at the last trailer for Fast 9, I was just okay, sure, that's where we're going next. Fine. Whatever. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously, when you use practical effects and using the real deal, you can really see the difference, and the quality of the film is different. I mean, here, you can really see the struggle, and there's a lot of authenticity to it, especially when you're talking about Zoe Bell being, tied to the front of a car.
She's so awesome.
And that whole scene... She is so awesome, and I love that she's such a tough chick because they really boast how tough she is in their conversation. And then through all of this, and she gets thrown off the car, and then she just kind of while everybody thinks she dies, she pops up. And I thought that scene was hilarious, the entire bit. And in reality, because, I mean, you have these pretty great actresses in general. The whole crew is pretty good. Rosario Dawson, I mean, it is early in her career at this point, I believe, and Tracy Toms I don't know how big Tracy Toms got, but I mean, I watched a few movies with her in it, and
if you like Cold Case, she's in that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I liked her in Rent, so that's where I saw her. But no, she has a really great singing voice, so I really liked her doing Broadway. Yeah, because she did, I think she's one of the actresses who, she did the Broadway musical for Rent, and then she also did the movie.
That's interesting, because
in different roles.
Because Marcia Arell was in the original version of In the Heights, and she was also in Rent as well, so... I don't know if Tarantino went and saw Rent, and he was all right, gonna cast Macy Harrell, gonna cast Tracy Toms... So, just...
Yeah, but I mean, I really like them so for me, it was pretty nice to see everyone here. Yeah. And I mean, even the little part that Mary Elizabeth Winstead got, because, I mean, I never saw her before. I never knew of her before Cloverfield, that one. What was it called? 10...
Oh,
is it?
Yeah, another one you mean, the follow-up, I think, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I can never place her. This is the problem. I know she's in Scott Pilgrim as well.
Yes.
And she's
That's true, she is in
She's
Scott
also
Pilgrim.
in Die Hard 4 as well. And it's I see her in things, but I can never place who she is. She was thingy who's in The Boys and Judge Dredd. Carl Urban. She's like Carl Urban. I can, for the longest time, I couldn't place who Carl Urban was, even though he's been in many things. And now he's in The Boys. I have my one reference point. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I just go remember she's the ex-girlfriend in Scott Pilgrim, and then there we go.
Yes.
But yeah, she's here as a cheerleader, reference to the Swinging Cheerleaders, because they're making a cheerleader movie, which her friend, being such a good friend, says that they're actually making porn instead, so that they can steal Bud's Dodge Challenger. But yes, the Buck who we see in this film is actually the same Buck who we see in Kill Bill as the attempted rapist guy. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So, Yeah, obviously Zoe Bell's gone on to do some really great acting work as well. She was in Whip It. She's in a couple more Tarantino movies as well. So she's it's great that she managed to transition into not being a stunt woman, but also into a stunt woman actress as well. A couple of fun facts here: the duck that we see on the front of Stuntman Mike reappears in the Takashi Miike western, Shijuku Western Django, where Tarantino plays a gunslinger, and later an elderly gunslinger who's got a motorized wheelchair, whose lever is the rubber duck mascot. Yeah. It's actually a nod to Convoy, because obviously Chris Christopherson's character is called Rubber Duck, and in top its hood ornament is the duck that we see there. But yeah, that brings us into tonight's episode. Thank you as always for listening. If you haven't done already, please do hit the like and subscribe button wherever you happen to be listening to us. You can check out our blog, which is moviesandtpodcast.wordpress.com, where you can find all our previous seasons. You can also find our Friday Film Club, where every Friday myself and Kim both pick a film to highlight, and sometimes themes, sometimes there's not. Either way, it's a chance for us to explore more movies that we love. You can follow us on Facebook, and we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what your favourite Tarantino movies are. We always love to hear from you guys. But Kim, what's coming up next?
Next up is 2009's Inglourious Basterds.
So yes, Tarantino's take on the World War II movie, his Men on a Mission movie, which inspired by the Italian Boys on Adventure movie of the same name. But we will be talking about that and many other interesting aspects of when we look at Inglourious Basterds in our next episode. But until then, thank you as always for listening, and we will be back next time, as I said, to talk about Inglourious Basterds. But until then, good night.